Welcome to episode 6 of my developer's diary for DAWBuddy, a piece of software that I'm creating that will hopefully let you build templates using the DAW project format. Now, since the last video, quite a bit has changed with the software. I've had to go back to the drawing board and completely start again, basically, to get certain things working. Let's go over some of those changes. So, the main one is the UI. You can see here it's been divided up into 3 zones, a lot more like a DAW. So you have the left zone here, which contains the build tab and the visibility tabs. We have the central project zone, which contains tracks and buses. And then we also have the right zone that has the utilities and tools tabs. Now, starting off with the build menu, at the bottom you have the Get Names button, which you've seen in the previous videos. It was called Get Names and the more advanced version was Scan. These have now been combined and I've just gone back to the Get Names button name. So when you click on it, it'll open up, your browser. You can choose a library. It'll extract all the instrument names from that library and then import them in directly into the project. Nothing new there. Now, what is new but still being worked on is the library developers list. So in the preferences menu, you'll be able to go to a drives menu and add individual sample libraries that you want to use inside of DAWBuddy for creating tracks for. And then the idea is you'll have options to customize those libraries into different folders and have that reflected in the list here. So you can open up a folder for, say, all of your Spitfire audio libraries. You can see all of the libraries that you own, and then you can click on them and import the tracks in ready. Okay. And also, if you've saved any configurations with those tracks, have the ability to recall those or just load those instead of the basics in where it's just pulling the names. The visibility tab is the same as the folder bar in the last video where you could see the folders and rearrange them, show and hide them. I've just not added it in on the front end yet on this version, but it will be in. And then in the tracks menu here, this is where everything gets listed for folder tracks, audio tracks, and instrument tracks. When you click to add any tracks in, it will give you a pop-up dialog now, so you can exactly put in the amount you want, and then you can go ahead, and rename these tracks. And as you hit enter, it will cycle through the track names as well, so you can quickly name them all. Now, the buses tab, I'm still in 2 minds about this one, but essentially most people like to have their groups, buses and print stems at the bottom of their orchestral template. And I just feel like separating that out from the main tracks is going to be easier for you to navigate instead of having to scroll down all the time to get to your buses, or even use like a visibility thing where you can click on it and it'll take you to your buses section. I just feel like having them separate like this is going to be quicker. I might be wrong about that, and I'll wait and see how people feel once they've started using the software, if it would be better to have just all the tracks in the list and give you the options just to navigate to different parts of the track list from the visibility tab. But yeah, so audio tracks, folder tracks, instrument tracks here. Buses and audio tracks you'll be able to create here, but the ones here will be always at the bottom of the project. Now, moving on to the right zone, we have the name utility. I've still got a couple more things to add to this, but I'll show you what's working. So for example, if I want to change the naming convention between different developers to match my own naming conventions, it's good to have tools that allow you to quickly bulk rename and change things how you need. So some of the basic tools for that are things like find and replace. So for example here, with selected tracks only, if I choose a couple of these tracks here and I type out instruments, doesn't matter if it's uppercase, lowercase, whatever, it's going to find that word for me from that selection, and then we can replace it with another thing entirely. If I uncheck this box, it means whatever tools we use here, it's going to apply to all of the tracks in the project. So for example, let's say I want to replace VLA with Celli. We can do that. Great. Now, there's another scenario here that I want to show you. Sometimes when I've run into this, when you import different developer track names into a project, sometimes you need to be able to specifically target words with uppercases and lowercases, because you might have, for example, say a folder that's capitalized Simps, but you might have a track with the name Simps in it, even with just one capital, or it's all lowercase. And when you're doing bulk renames on things, if I just want to target all my folders with capitalized, or I want to target the tracks with lowercase, or maybe some with one uppercase, you've got to have case sensitivity stuff in there to save some frustration. So I've added in a chat box here. So for example, if I want to go through the entire project and look for instruments with a lowercase I, I can just type it in and it will select those words, all word, and then allow me to apply any actions to it. Now if I want to find bass lowercase, it's not going to find it because there's no lowercase bass, but uppercase, there we go. Or it's very specific basically. Now we're moving on, we have append, pretty self-explanatory. You can add something after, so I don't know if you want to add an articulation, Lego, that's not really an articulation, but there we go, Lego. We can append it, or we can prepend stuff with whatever we like. So let's put BBC, there you go. One thing I do need to add is insert at position, so you can type out a word and you can choose where you want it inserted. Remove is already case sensitive, although I might add a toggle for this, like the find and replace, and also give you some more text boxes to input multiple different words to remove, instead of just typing them out one at a time. So if I want to remove BBC with a lowercase c, it's not going to remove it, but it will remove that. I'd also need to remember to put the space in beforehand as well, if there is any space in, or after the fact if you want the space removed. Numbering, we have prefix and suffix, and you can choose the separator type as well as some from the list here, but it might just make sense for me to add a box where you can type in your own separator type. But we do have, one here. So if I want to prefix, add the numbers at the start of the name with, for example, a spaced bullet, I can do that and it'll add them in. Now, smart name is going to be, it's going to be a bit of work for me to build this one in, but ultimately what I'm going to hopefully provide, if it all goes to plan, is a really intuitive way you can completely handle all naming conventions in multiple different projects and tracks. So how it'll work is there'll be a separate window that will have tabs for different things like strings, brass, winds, percussion, blah, 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 blah. And on the one side, you'll see a list of all the instruments with their full names. And then you'll have another column that will allow you to choose what abbreviations you wish to use for those names. So if it's score, like score abbreviations or whatever, you can choose it. And you'll be able to do this for all your libraries. And then what will happen is, once you've got your naming conventions all set up and how you want certain words to be changed or maybe even moved, you would just basically import all your tracks in, you'd hit smart name, and it will go ahead and automatically convert all the words to your specifications and completely rename everything how you need it to be. It's going to be difficult to piece it together. There's a lot of different things I've got to think about with it, but I think it'd be a really awesome feature to have, and it's definitely going to save you a hell of a lot of time when it comes to bulk renaming, different things from different libraries and getting it to work together with a naming convention. Because some people like to go pretty complex with it, others like to keep it pretty simple, so it might not be as big of a deal to them, but I still think it'll be pretty cool to have that in there. And then finally, with the tools tab, this will just have some buttons in that will do things like open up your DAW if it's not open already, or bring it to the foreground so you don't have to, click away and whatever. Just go bump and it will bring it up, although it might not be necessary, to be honest. There might be some other tools that I'm thinking about adding in there, but I won't talk about those yet. But yeah, that is it for now. Doesn't seem like an awful lot, but trust me, it's it's a pain in the arse. So I'll be working on this more in a couple of weeks, and can't wait to show you some more progress. Thanks for watching, and yeah, take it easy.